You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Shallow right field, stumbling start for Stewart. That's throws a deep left field by Alvarez. He's homered in 4 straight games for the second time in he's homered in 4.
What's up, Mets fans? It's your boy CP, and welcome back to another edition of the True Mets Talk spring training live stream. We're going to be talking about the last 2 games that we witnessed against the Washington Nationals and the Miami Marlins. As always, you can see the palm trees, the sun right here in my graphics. Oh, I would kill to be in Port St. Lucie right now watching this team. But alas, I am here up north, and we don't have as great as weather, although the weather has been at least a little bit decent. But nonetheless, as always, if you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, whether you're tuning in live and you're new or whether you're catching this on replay. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. The channel's almost at 550 subscribers. I would love to get to that mark, and as always, make sure you're hitting the live chat. Always hit the live chat. Let me know what you all think about the last 2 games. Who's been impressing you? Who hasn't been impressing you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. As always, like we always do, whether it's on here, the Interstate Mets Report, or the Mets Hot Stove live streams, we will be propping up all comments here that come into the live chat. And you know where to find me, usually live tweeting games as they're happening at CPNY Sports. I appreciate you all rocking with me. Make sure you follow me over there. And we got David in the chat checking us out. I appreciate you, David. Thank you so much. Let's go Mets. Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, guys, let's get into it. I wanted to drop a little bit of just some notes here from the last 2 games that we saw. I know that with the first game, game 3 wasn't really televised, and that was against the Washington Nationals. And we all obviously went back to regular scheduled programming today with the regular broadcast crew. It was good to see Daniel Murphy first time in the booth. He sounded very natural alongside Ron Darling and Gary Cohen. So hopefully we get to see more out of Daniel Murphy in the booth. I think he provided a lot of good questions, a lot of good commentary alongside those 2 guys. So I want to see more of him. But obviously, this first game on the left-hand side of your screen, in the game that Max Kranick actually started, was not televised. I'm not sure why it wasn't televised. That pissed me off, especially with the guy like Max Kranick on the mound, who is going to be in direct competition for one of those last starting rotation spots. I wanted to see what he had to offer, and I had to resort to Twitter and some Nationals fan live streaming the game behind the backstop to get my content there. So that was a little bit infuriating, but you can see Max Kranick, the former Pittsburgh Pirate, did very, very well. 2 innings pitched, gave up 2 no hits and 2 strikeouts. So a great Mets debut for Max Kranick. This is a guy that was at one point the number 26 overall prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates before he was inevitably, I guess, DFA'd or let go because he was coming off of an injury. He got Tommy John surgery, I believe, in 2022 at some point, and that forced him to miss the majority of 2023. I have to double check when that date was on his surgery, but nonetheless, he is coming off of an elbow injury. Fastball, which is pretty electric. I believe it's mid to high 90s with a nice little slider to go along with it. Uses those 2 predominant pitches, but also does have a curveball in his arsenal that he doesn't use as much. So keep an eye out on Max Kranick. Like I said, with these stats and these box scores right here to the left-hand side of your screen, I wish I could provide some more input because I just simply didn't get to see the game. But I wanted to prop up Tyler Stewart here with his 2 innings of work and his debut in this spring training as well, giving up 1 hit, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Scoreless over those 2 innings pitched. This is a guy that has been jumping around the New York Mets prospect rankings for the last couple of years, is projected to be a lower level starter at the MLB level. He posted a 1.5 ERA in high A-ball Brooklyn last season before being promoted to Double-A Binghamton, where he tossed a 3.6 ERA. I like what I see out of Tyler Stewart. I think that he definitely has some more polishing to do, but what surprised me about Tyler Stewart, and I'm not sure if you all know this, and I had to do a double take when I went and looked at the scouting report on Tyler Stewart, is that he is 6'9", 250 pounds. That is absolutely almost unheard of as a pitcher. To be that tall and have that big of a frame on that mound is just absolutely very imposing on opposing hitters, especially coming off of that mound that has a lot of height to it already. You get a 6'9" pitcher staring down at you. That is awesome. And I know that he doesn't throw the hardest for being that tall. Typically, when you think about tall pitchers, the more drive they're able to get through with their lower half. He throws about mid-90s, I want to say, but he did impress yesterday. I got to watch a couple clips of him, but nonetheless, 6'9", 250, that really, really, really shocked me. And we got Junior checking into the chat here as well. Mets opposite field hitting has been a beautiful sight to see. Yeah, this is something that I said on my Twitter account as well earlier today. If you're following along, it seems to be the common trend with Alex Ramirez, with Luis Angel Acuna, with Pete Alonso. All of these guys are doing a beautiful job, and we'll talk about Drew Gilbert here in just a second. He also got his first hit this spring training via the opposite field route. That is something that I want to see the New York Mets continue to implement. And I think that maybe, just maybe, I know it's very early on into spring training. I'm not sure how much influence at this point Eric Chavez has been able to make on these hitters. We saw that article come out yesterday of him going up to each Mets player from last season and apologizing for some odd reason. I'm not sure it's whether because he took the promotion to be the bench coach and the hitting coach was then Jeremy Barnes, and he was apologizing for taking that promotion. I don't feel like he had to apologize at all. Like at all. But he nonetheless he did. He apologized that he wasn't there for the hitters. And obviously, it was a very drastic difference between 2022 and 2023 for the Mets lineup. But nonetheless, we'll get into the offensive side of the ball here in just a minute. But I wanted to shout out those two guys, Max Kranick, who's still very young, and is vying for that rotation spot with the scoreless two frames, as well as Tyler Stewart, up-and-coming pitcher for the New York Mets. Like I said, I took a look at Tyler Stewart. I wasn't too familiar with who he was. I'm not going to lie to you. We all think about the Mets pitching prospects and Christian Scott, your Mike Vazzels, your Dominic Hamels, and then Tyler Stewart is just kind of there in the background. But he's a big frame in the background because he's 6'9", 250 pounds. I cannot believe it. I simply cannot believe it. And he's already 24 years old, so it's not like he's a super young prospect. He's 24 years old, cracked Double-A. We'll see how the Mets utilize him in terms of starting him out of Double-A, and we'll see if he gets that promotion to Triple-A here in 2024. We'll see where he starts off with. But what up, Rob? I appreciate you being in the chat. Make sure you all are tuning into the Mets spring training live stream tonight at 7:30 with Talking Mets with Rob. He's going to be going over this game on the right-hand side of your screen. On that stream. I wish I could join him. I will be joining him in subsequent streams. So I appreciate him also joining me on the last Mets Spring Training Live on this True Mets Talk podcast. But nonetheless, solid pitching performances there in that 6-3 win against the Washington Nationals. And like I said, I couldn't watch it. Not many of you all, unless you know some special site out there that I'm not familiar with, couldn't watch it because for some odd reason, the Major League Baseball commissioner or whoever does these TV deals still quite literally can't get it right that we need to watch these teams, especially early on in spring training, to get a evaluation standpoint of these guys that the Mets may be working with in the 2024 season and who's going to be in the minor leagues versus the major league club. So that was infuriating. But you can see at the top of your screen, shifting over on that left-hand side of your game, Alonso stays hot. He's hitting 500, I believe, so far for spring training. 2 doubles to go along with a walk. And he did score a run yesterday. Like I said, this is just brief spark notes here on this left-hand side of the game. You have Trace Thompson. Trace Thompson came out of his shell, 2 hits, hit a grand slam with 5 RBIs, and this was a signing in Trayce Thompson that really intrigued me. Obviously, he was an ex-Dodger, did very well over there for, I believe it was a very short sample size in one season. I forgot what the season was. It was a couple seasons back. Went back to his old stomping grounds to, I believe, the team that drafted him in the Chicago White Sox, and had a pretty rough go at it. He had a pretty rough go at it. Comes over to the New York Mets on a minor league deal with a spring training invite. And a lot of people have been talking about DJ Stewart. I've been talking about DJ Stewart. Every other Mets content creator has been talking about DJ Stewart. And everybody's that's a Mets fan on X, Instagram, where have you, has been talking about DJ Stewart as that last bench spot. But I truly do think that with DJ Stewart having that option, and whether he starts off with the major leagues on the 26th opening day man roster or not, it doesn't matter. Trayce Thompson is an immediate candidate, not just for this game, but talking about the power that he provides and the versatility and speed that he provides. He is a viable candidate to give DJ Stewart a run there. And I talked about it time and time again. This bench already has 2 left-handed hitters on that bench, and Joey Wendell and Omar Narvaez. Now, those guys aren't going to be candidates for the DH spot like a DJ Stewart would be. So that is DJ Stewart's saving grace. But if the New York Mets organization and David Stearns feels like it's not feasible to carry 3 lefties on the bench, this is where someone like a Trayce Thompson could make perfect sense. Now, I'm not advocating for the guy just yet. Just because he had a great spring training game with 4 RBIs in a grand slam does not mean I'm going to advocate for him. But I want to see the sample size that he's able to provide, because even if he goes and clears waivers and starts off in the minor leagues for the New York Mets, this is a great depth piece guy that the Mets can bring up at any time for any sort of role that they want him to sort of go ahead and be. And he's not going to be an everyday player. Let's face it. Trayce Thompson is not an everyday player. But these are the guys that I like to see make a name for themselves, especially when they've had some recent sample size success in prior seasons, but are looking to get back on track, which I feel like David Stearns and the Mets have done a great job this past offseason in acquiring those type of guys. So, and yes, this same Trayce Thompson is the brother of NBA I want to say Hall of Famer. I have my own reservations and opinions on that. I think that he definitely will be in the Hall of Fame, but Klay Thompson as well, as That's My Sports is pointing out here. Like I said, just about 12 to 13 minutes into the stream. As always, y'all, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you like the content and all that good stuff. I got a special announcement at the end of this stream. A little bit of a fun project that I've launched on this channel that I think will be cool for you all as members that are tuned in regular to these live streams. Would be awesome for you all to check out. But nonetheless, we'll keep talking about the New York Mets in these last 2 spring training games. Quite simple. My last little note here from that Mets Nationals game is Mr. Luis Angel Acuna. The first game that he appeared in didn't go as planned. He looked great from the defensive side of the ball, but with the bat, he looked very timid out there. I believe he did draw a walk and stole a base in his first appearance. I got to go back and check that out. But in this game, he did rope 2 singles. And if you know me, Luis Angel Acuna is not a guy that I project. And I've gotten these questions so far from a lot of people on X and just people hitting me up about Luis Angel Acuna, asking, is it feasible for this guy to break the Mets opening day roster? And quite simple, I don't think it is. I don't think we'll be seeing him on the opening 26-man roster, but nonetheless, what he's been able to provide in terms of showing us that he can hit with the bat. And this is one game, right? He's got 2 hits under his belt. He's getting into his groove. I understand that a lot of people are writing him off simply due to the fact of his stature, but a lot of people are also excited about him at the same time, given who his brother is in Ronald Acuna Jr. So he notches 2 base hits. I believe one was to the pull side and one was to the opposite field. Great to see. He played shortstop. in his first game of spring training, second base in the second game. He is a middle infielder. This is a guy that has an electric arm. Listen, I went on my X account and have called out his arm and said that it is an elite arm. Gives me a lot of Jose Reyes vibes in terms of him taking ground balls from the shortstop. Now, I'm not going to compare him to Jose Reyes in general because the bat still needs to get to that level, but defensively, his mechanics and his arm strength and the way that he short arms the ball makes me think the first person I think of is Jose Reyes, the first person. So if he can sort of get into his own and sort of wait out the season, I do think he's going to be one of those guys that gets called up in September. If there's an injury by some stretch of the imagination, we know the Mets injury history. If there's an injury to this squad, somebody goes down in the outfield, that means Jeff McNeil may need to move over to left field. Maybe if the Mets want to keep Jet Williams down and they think Luis Angel Acuna is ready, they'll prop him up. But also, both of those guys do work. We know Jet Williams has been getting increased reps out there in the outfield and center field. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think he's going to make this opening day roster. I think Luis Angel Acuna is a shoe-in for that September call-up time. If the New York Mets especially are out of the playoff picture, that'll be the perfect time for him to sort of make a name for himself at the major league level before inevitably getting that chance, if he sticks around this organization past the offseason, to show what he has in 2025 and beyond. LGM, Darren's in the chat. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning into the stream, Darren. Always supporting the channel, always supporting the content, excuse me. I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, everyone supporting here in the chat, I appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, it means a lot. And thank you for supporting these streams. It means a lot to me. And yes, Aaron, we will be talking about Nate Lavender. You see that name on the right-handed side of your screen. Absolutely. Yeah, make sure you guys are subscribing to Randy, All Things Mets Talk. I believe you were live right before I was here. Make sure you go check out that live stream talking New York Mets as well. I did have him on the Interstate Mets Report alongside myself and Nelson. So make sure you go check out that channel and subscribe over to Randy. And he's saying, bro, I like his arm is good for sure, or I feel like his arm is good for sure. I think him and Mauricio will be in the infield in 2025. Yeah, and Ronnie Mauricio is a name that I feel like a lot of Mets fans, when we're talking about Jet Williams and Luis Angel Acuna, are forgetting about in terms of the grand scheme of things of 2025 and beyond. He's going to come back with a vengeance. And Ronnie Mauricio, the front office already stated that Ronnie Mauricio was going to compete with Brett Beatty for that third base spot before he went down with that injury. That was the plan for Ronnie Mauricio before he went down with that ACL tear. And a lot of people are forgetting about him. This roster for the New York Mets, and in relation to this comment about Mauricio and Luis Angel in the infield in 2025, this roster is going to look a lot different in 2025 than it is in 2024 by simple virtue of the fact that you have Harrison Bader on a one-year deal. I quite simply don't foresee Marte on this roster past 2024, which opens the floodgates for all of these guys to sort of come up and make their case. Now, there's going to be competition, and this is why I say you cannot have all these prospects come up at one time, so there will be trades. There's going to be I don't even want to speculate how many roster spots are going to be up available for these prospects next season, but you have those two immediate spots that I just mentioned with those expiring contracts. DJ Stewart, also another guy that's going to clear that bench spot because he's only on a one-year deal as well, I believe, with that tendered contract. So there's going to be roster spots available and a lot more open availability, but we'll see how attached David Stearns is to these prospects going into 2025, or is he going to use some of them as trade pieces? I think we all know who the untouchables are, but there are other prospects out there that may be used as trade targets, whether it's for the starting rotation or for another competent bat in the lineup, a starting caliber bat. I don't know, but there's going to be a shakeup. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. And that's just how I feel when it relates to all these prospects: Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So shout out to the New York Mets for pulling out a 6-3 W over NL East foes watching the Washington Nationals down there in spring training. Like I said, I could care less about these scores. I know a lot of people get tied up into the fact that the Mets either won or lost. I believe they're 3-1 after today in these games, in these spring training games, but the scores don't matter, guys. Let's be honest. The scores do not matter. But nice to see that the young guys are contributing. And Trace Thompson, a guy that's on the bubble, like I said, is making a name for himself. And I love it. And I love it. So, like I said, if you guys are here, do not forget to hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up. Comment your thoughts and opinions in the live chat. Like I said, I'm going to be propping up all comments. I'm going to actually use this time to let you all know about what's coming up on my channel. I dropped a video earlier today about this membership on my channel. I have 2 memberships going live. One is the True to the Orange and Blue membership, where you get your loyalty badges and your emojis that you can use on my live streams in the live chat and in the comment section. I'll be shouting you out in all my videos and my live streams, and I'll be propping up some comments that I think are very good and relevant to the topics that I'm talking about. So that's what you all get with a True to the Orange and Blue membership. And then we have the We Bleed Orange and Blue membership as well. It's going to be all the perks that you see from the True to the Orange and Blue membership, but you also get early access to all my videos that I drop on here, both for the Mets and the Knicks. And also, we're going to do member-only polls and use those for future content. And that sweet t-shirt that we have right here in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you sign up for this membership, you're going to get one of those for free, no charge at all. Logo on the front, We Bleed Orange and Blue on the back. So make sure you go check out my channel. It's going to be the join button right there when you're on my channel. And make sure you go hit me up on there and support the channel. I definitely appreciate all the support that I've gotten so far. And I just launched that today, so I'm very excited about it. But moving on into the next game here, we do have the Mets versus the Marlins in the action that we saw from spring training today. And this was finally televised on SNY. I had to take a day break, and it was almost, I was like itching. I was like, I need Mets baseball on my TV screen. I need it. Where is it? And we finally got it back. The Mets pull out a W 7-1 against the Miami Marlins. You can see Adrian Houser, also like Max Kranick, made his major league debut for the New York Mets. Not that he made his major league debut overall, because obviously this is a veteran. He's been in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, but this is his Mets debut. So let's get that out the way. 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no earned runs, and 1 strikeout for Adrian Houser. Quite simple. This is a guy that's going to surprise some people this year. I think a lot of people at the time of this trade we're overlooking the value added of Adrian Houser and what he's going to provide for this Mets team. Yes, he was scheduled to be that 5th starter for the Mets with Kodai Senga in the picture. Now that Kodai Senga is not in the picture and he's injured and on the shelf, which, by the way, I believe he got some injections in his arm. A little update from what I've been hearing about Kodai Senga, going to be shut down for 2 to 3 weeks. And if I had to guess, probably mid to late May is going to be the time frame for Kodai Senga to come back. Don't quote me on it, but with him being shut down and him needing to go back and ramp up and kind of have an extended spring training, just like Verlander did last year, it wasn't the same type of injury, but nonetheless, that is my projection for Kodai Senga in terms of when we're going to see him. But nonetheless, Adrian Houser, fastball, cutter, slider, a mix of it all today in his start. It was great. He was locating pitches. And Jose Iglesias in the first inning. I mean, are we kidding me, Jose Iglesias? The first play of the game, diving up the middle to get that first out for Adrian Houser on a screamer off of Luis Arias's bat to lead off. I mean, that is a great way to start off that game. And yeah, that was electric. He made actually a couple of nice plays in that first inning, and the Mets were off to the races there. But Adrian Houser had a great debut, was locating his pitches. And the most important thing to remember about Adrian Houser is that he is a ground ball pitcher. He's a ground ball pitcher. Quite simple. He's going to get the ground balls. I'm pretty sure he induced about 4 ground balls today, and that is his strength, especially with that sinker, tailing down and out to left-handed batters and down and into right-handed batters. He's going to get that weak contact to the left side of the field, and he just is. And I liked exactly what I saw from Adrian Houser. He is Mr. Consistent. In Milwaukee, he had a great year in 2021, posting a 3.22 ERA, a little bit of a down year in 2022 with a 4.73 ERA, but in 2023, respectable 4.12. I like to call him Mr. Consistent. That is what I call Adrian Houser. He is Mr. Consistent. That's it. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised, pleasantly surprised, of what he's going to do this season for the New York Mets going into his free agent year. Obviously, will be a free agent after the end of this season. Yes, I was very hyped when Gilbert got that opposite field single. It was a great 0-2 pitch. And I want to talk about that here in just a second. But I appreciate you, Randy. Thank you so much for the compliment. I try to work very hard and nonstop on this channel for all my content, whether it's Mets related or Knicks related. And that's why I wanted to open up that membership for everybody and sort of give back to you all to sort of have fun, because I'm going to be doing these solo live streams a lot more often across my channel. And I want to interact with you all. I already interact a lot with you all, but I want to get to know my subscribers and the viewers a lot more, which is why I prop that up there as an option for you all to become members, and not only subscribers on the channel. Obviously, completely voluntary, but that is an option for you all as well. And we'll sort of have some fun with it there. I'll be rotating in the emojis that you all can use during the live streams. We have a nice little Francisco Lindor with the Puerto Rican flag background emoji. We have a Polar P emoji, and we have a hashtag Knicks tape emoji for you all to use on our Knicks post-game lives if you're a Knicks fan as well. So definitely stay tuned with that. But yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the Mets relievers real quick, because obviously the headliner here is Nate Lavender. Another scoreless inning in the books for Nate Lavender. Started off this inning today with a bang and striking out his first victim in the Miami Marlins lineup. Was 4 for 4 in strikeouts to that point, going to back to his last outing. And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to this prospect named Nate Lavender in the Mets organization. Again, like Tyler Stewart, 24 years old, is getting a little bit into that territory of being an older prospect. 24 years old, like at that point, a lot of prospects are already up into a major league team and are pretty much comfortable in terms of what role they're going to have on a major league team. Now, it's still the beginning of their careers, I understand, but the virtue of the way the Mets roster is right now, the Mets are going to have to work diligently to get these guys up like a Tyler Stewart or a Nate Lavender. I will say, I'm not a fan of bringing prospects up in their first year when they're 25, 26 years old. If the Mets can mitigate that with these guys, and if they truly think that these guys are here for long term, like a Nate Lavender, Tyler Stewart, I would probably guess that it's going to be in the tail end of this season, regardless of what happens, that they'll get their chance. But that is something to take into consideration of what their age is and also where they're at in the MLB or the minor leagues at their respective levels. Like I said, with Tyler Stewart, high A ball and got promoted to Double-A Brooklyn. And I have to check on Nate Lavender and where he's been at in terms of the minor league levels with his stats. And because I honestly haven't been following Nate Lavender, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been hearing his name across the offseason, but I didn't really do my due diligence in terms of knowing what he's been doing so AAA. Yeah, we talked about it on the last live stream. He did phenomenal in Binghamton in Double-A last season, 1.74 ERA in a small sample size of 7 games. Then he got promoted up to AAA Syracuse in 35 games and posted a 3.27 ERA. This is another southpaw. You can never ever have too many southpaws in that bullpen. Lefties to come into the game, whether they're in there to be a lefty specialist or they're in there for the long haul, maybe a long relief type guy. Right now we have Jake Diekman and Brooks Raley, but keep an eye out on Nate Lavender because it's not impossible for the Mets to opt to use 3 lefties in that bullpen. Obviously, we're going to have to see what Joey Lucchesi provides and where they slot him into in this opening day roster. But keep an eye out on Nate Lavender because this is a guy that has great movement, a very funky delivery. I know Subway to Shea Anthony from his podcast has been talking about a delivery and an emotion, a pitching motion that resembles Billy Wagner, but also you see that pre-pitch movement, that funky sort of delivery really being credited to Nestor Cortez. And he himself said that he took great inspiration from Nestor Cortez with that funky delivery. So yeah, I'm excited about Nate Lavender. This is a guy that is coming onto the scene. Obviously, we've heard his name sprinkled in, but we didn't really know what he had. Was in AAA last year, posted a 3.27 ERA there, and he's really making the case for why he should be cracking this Mets roster. Maybe not to open out the season, but at some point in 2024, why he should be there. So shout out to Nate Lavender. Very, very excited about the bullpen depth of this team, because it's not only Nate Lavender that's opening our eyes right now. It's not only Nate Lavender. I'll tell you what, Yohan Ramirez has impressed me with his last outing. Electric fastball, 96 to 97 miles per hour. You see a guy like Yaxel Rios today in this game throwing an easy 98 miles per hour with the scoreless inning. Yaxel Rios is a guy that honestly I should have done my homework on when we first signed him, but shout out to David if you're still in the chat. He was sort of spitting some knowledge onto me in terms of the Winter League that he was appearing in, and I'm going to have to do a lot more research on Yaxel Rios. But these guys in this bullpen that are fighting to be seen and are fighting to be placed in a position in this minor league farm system to get called up if there's an injury to happen, they're opening some eyes. Yohan Ramirez, Nate Lavender, Yaxel Rios. Who else? Michael Tonkin, who a lot of people weren't even paying attention to. They weren't even paying attention to the signing of Michael Tonkin, obviously appearing for the Atlanta Braves, I believe, last season. Has that really, really good run on his sweeper, very late movement, and we saw it today posting a scoreless inning, I believe it was as well. Michael Tonkin's another guy that if the Mets are prioritizing junk ballers or guys with heavy slider sweeper movement, wow, I mean, like, this is plentiful options. And I'm not saying that a Michael Tonkin's going to break the opening day roster. I'm not saying that a Yaxel Rios is going to break the opening day roster. I'm not expecting it. And I'm not expecting Nate Lavender to break the opening day roster because we have our bullpen set. We have Edwin Diaz coming back from injury. We have a guy like Adam Ottavino. We have Brooks Raley, Shintaro Fujinami, Drew Smith, and I know Drew Smith is what he is, but we'll see how he performs and if he steps it up, because that guy has all the tools in the world. He just needs to worry about location and that slider. And if he's on a short, like Drew Smith, make no mistake about it. Drew Smith, I'm going to say it right now on this live stream. Drew Smith is on a short leash. He's on a short leash. And a lot of Mets fans out there and a lot of Mets content creators I've been talking to aren't even convinced if Drew Smith goes out there and makes an appearance in spring training and he craps the bed, so to speak, that he'll even be on the 26-man roster. That's a possibility as well. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. I think Drew Smith, with his tenure with the Mets and what he has as tools with that 98 mile per hour fastball and that slider that he just has a hard time locating, I think he's going to be on the open day roster for better or for worse. But if he struggles, if Shintaro Fujinami goes out there and struggles and he gets sent down, then you got Yaxel Rios throwing an easy 98 miles per hour, impressing everybody as a candidate to come up. And this is what this offseason has been all about. And now you're starting to see it as Mets fans come to fruition. And I understand, before you all tell me, I understand it's only spring training and I'm getting a little bit worked up over spring training. Can you all tell how excited I am about baseball being back? This is the type of excitement that you're gonna get all season long. And trust me, we got a lot of Mets content in store for you all, because I got guys that for days that I'm going to be lining up to come on my channel and speak about this Mets team. We got post-game lives for days following Mets games in 2024, just like we did in 2023 with Nelson and Pask. So we got a lot of content for you all, and this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of my excitement to cover this team in 2024. So I hope you guys are rocking with me. If you're not, if you're new here, subscribe, continue to rock with me, and it's going to be a very fun season. It's going to be, by the way, anybody that's going to be at Citi Field on March 30th, hit me up. I'm going to be there with Pask and probably talking Mets with Rob. We're going to chop it up and do a little bit of a tailgate in the parking lot, very open. That is going to be I believe Pask said it's poor man's opening day, how he calls it. But nonetheless, that Saturday, March 30th, I will be in the building. Come say what's up to your boys. I definitely appreciate it. All things Mets talk. Randy is getting out of here, but let's talk Thursday for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of good things happening on your channel, Randy. Thank you for coming in and checking me out and checking out the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. People need to let Stearns cook. Aaron, that's a great point. That is a great point. A lot of people, when I talked about the names that I just mentioned in Yaxa Rios, Johan Ramirez, Michael Tonkin, even Austin Adams, who a couple days ago we saw pitch a perfect inning as well. Not a perfect inning, but a scoreless inning. These guys, when they were first signed to the New York Mets, not many people batted an eye. I mean, I did because I made videos about the majority of them. I talked about Michael Tonkin. I talked about Austin Adams, and I did videos on them. But not many people were talking about these guys because they had either they weren't playing in 2023 or they had very down 2023s. Max Kranick is another guy as well in that same category. But David Stearns has shown, at least for the early goings here, that he is capable together competent depth should anything happen injury wise or just strictly non-performance wise with the opening day roster moving forward into this season, into the regular season. And I know it's early. But I've said time and time again on this channel that I'm not going to grade David Stearns on this offseason alone. I'm going to reserve my grade to see what happens next offseason. But this is just the tip of the iceberg in his footprint that he is making on this organization. And I think it's absolutely for the better. Everyone is open for their own interpretation of that in terms of their own opinions on David Stearns. But that's my opinion on David Stearns. Shout out Carlos checking into the stream. I appreciate you. He says, what's up, CP and fellow Mets fans? Thank you so much for rocking with us on the True Mets Talk podcast. It is February 27th. Just doing a little bit of review here, talking about the last two spring training games. We'll get into that competition talk, and we'll talk about who y'all's preference might be to be that opening day starter. I threw up a poll on my X account. We'll talk about that here as well in a couple minutes before we get up on out of here. But I appreciate you checking out the stream. Darren said, notice Mets have been getting a lot of oppo hits. Yep. Putting the ball in play and scoring runs yeah, absolutely. Drew Gilbert's no exception. He went down 0-2 today. I believe he got an off-speed pitch, sort of did an early load, an early toe tap, but he followed through very nicely and just simply hit the ball where it was pitched. Like, that is something that you love to see from a rookie that's been getting so much hype from everybody in this fan base, including myself. I've been on record this offseason saying that he is my favorite prospect in this organization coming up. A one scout, I've been seeing this quote being thrown around. One scout alluded to Drew Gilbert as Lenny Dykstra 2.0, but with more power. Drew Gilbert, make no mistake about it, is a five-tool player. He plays great defense, has a great arm, has a great bat, can hit for average, but also power as well. I'm not saying he's going to hit you 30 home runs, but 15, maybe even upwards of 18 home runs is definitely in his future. And honestly, when you talk about the sixth tool, his energy. If you guys go back and look at his Tennessee days when he was a Tennessee Volunteer in that program, which is a great program, by the way, in college baseball in terms of how the NCAA goes. Drew Gilbert plays with a passion, and he plays with a fire. He's very fiery out there, and that's exactly the type of energy that I like from these young guys coming up. I love it. And Drew Gilbert is just the tip of the iceberg. This is all just like the very tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're talking about on the stream. I'm so excited to see what he has to offer and what all these guys have to offer. Drew Gilbert, 0-2 pitch today, opposite field hit for 2 RBIs, as you can see on your screen here. I believe he only got that one at bat, but I got to go back and check the box score. When it got to the tail end of those innings, I did unfortunately have to step out and I couldn't watch those innings, but I watched until about, I want to say 6th or 7th inning. So that was something that I definitely enjoyed seeing. Carlos is asking me what I think about Jose Iglesias. I did mention him at the top here about his couple of nice plays in the first inning, has a couple of hits in spring training as well. He's another guy that loves to take the ball the opposite field as well. He's a veteran. He's a journeyman. He's been in this league a long time, and Francisco Lindor was talking about him and his defense and how they used to work together in that sort of infield. And you see in this first inning, He's a wizard with that glove. I talked about with Adrian Houser getting his first out as a New York Met in that first inning. It was due to Jose Iglesias being the savvy middle infielding vet that he is, going up and diving for that play and throwing the runner out. It was Luis Arias throwing him out for the first out. So I love his glove. I just don't know, as it pertains to your question, Carlos, I don't know if there is room for him on this roster, on the opening day roster. This is a guy that's been in the Padres organization recently. Obviously, he's been all over the Tigers. He's been with the Guardians, the Red Sox, the Rockies. I don't know if we have a roster spot available for him. And I'll talk about that here as I talk about Ji-Man Choi. And this is the same conversation that we just had about Trayce Thompson in that competition for the last bench spot. Because we went over talking Mets with Rob, and I went over a very full live stream. It's about almost 2 hours long about the open roster spots that are available for the opening day roster. And I think that one of those roster spots that are available, and they're not plentiful, is that last bench spot on this team that currently is in the hands with a lot of people, and what a lot of people are thinking is DJ Stewart. Now, I don't have anything against DJ Stewart. This is a guy that I highly rooted for, especially when he went on that tear down the stretch of last season. He had a great month. I believe he tallied 9 or 11 home runs, showed off the power, showed that he was competent in the outfield. Bigger frame, stockier frame, so he's not going to be an all-world defensive player out there, but he's serviceable. He has an option. I don't know where the Mets view him as in terms of where they view this DH position moving forward, because there's two options that the Mets can deploy here. There's two options. And shout out Ethan in the chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining into the stream. Keep dropping those comments, guys, and keep hitting that thumbs up. There's two options for the New York Mets to deploy here. One, they can go the classic route if they're not confident in Mark Vientos. And Mark Vientos is another guy that went 0 for 3 today. Has put some good swings on balls, but really hasn't gotten hot yet in spring training. And we're still waiting to see that from him. If they trust in Mark Vientos to make him the full-time DH, no matter if there's a lefty or righty on the mound, they could opt to send DJ Stewart down to AAA to start the season and potentially take a shot at a guy like Trayce Thompson. They could very well do that. Or if they want to keep that platoon, even at that point, DJ Stewart's roster spot is still not guaranteed because you have a guy like Ji-Man Choi that has been added to this organization on a minor league. I believe it's a split contract deal with an invitation to spring training. And if he cracks the opening day roster, he's going to make $3.5 million. This is a guy that was a Tampa Bay Ray and had a pretty good sample size to him between 2018 and 2022. Obviously, last year spent with the Pittsburgh Pirates, didn't do so well, battled some injuries, but he is a DH candidate for this team, and he's going to be in direct competition as well with DJ Stewart. Both lefties, and you also have Luke Voit on the opposite side of that equation. And I do think that Luke Voit has a chance being that righty option, and you can go with righty, lefty on your bench. But if they're fine with carrying three lefties, which they very well may be, then you got Ji-Man Choi versus DJ Stewart. Now, chat, this is where I want you guys to chime in with your thoughts and opinions as well. Actually, I always want you guys to chime in with your thoughts and opinions. I want you all to tell me, knowing who Ji-Man Choi is, hopefully you do by now know who he is and did your research and what he was able to provide for the Tampa Bay Rays. Plays solid defense, not great, but he's serviceable there. Has a power bat, some pretty good power potential. Isn't going to get you 25 home runs, but he could get you 15, 16, 17 maybe in a plentiful sort of sample size if he were to get that. Let me know in the chat. Would you prefer to see Ji-Man Choi or DJ Stewart on the opening day roster? I know it's spring training. We're after the fourth game. This is highly speculatory, but just knowing the type of player that Ji-Man Choi is versus the lack of sample size that we were able to see out of DJ Stewart, only getting maybe like a month and a half sample size from DJ Stewart, who would you prioritize right now if the roster decision were to be made today? Who would you prioritize? Because Ji-Man Choi, He's a vet hitter, man. He's a vet hitter. He's a vet hitter. And not only can he provide you that power that we saw today with that home run, which, by the way, was 107 miles per hour off the bat, he also knows the strike zone very, very well. He is a very competent hitter, and he is not afraid to take walks and get on base when the pitchers are missing their spots. He knows the strike zone very well. He has a very low chase rate on his Baseball Savant page, which is great. He even drew a walk today, and you're starting to see that plate discipline with Ji-Man Choi. And that is something that has been very consistent throughout his career. So all I'm saying is that I like Ji-Man Choi as a player. He still has a lot to prove, but he is a sneaky dark horse candidate to crack this opening day roster. So I'm going to give you all a minute or two, maybe like 30 seconds to tell me who you all would prioritize right now if the decision had to be made today for this spot. And I'm going to take a sip of water because I am going about 45 minutes here on the stream, and my throat's a little dry, so excuse me. Yeah, we got some comments in here already talking about who they prefer. Carlos is saying Ji-Man Choi. Mason's saying he hit a bomb today. Yep, absolutely. 107 off the bat. It was a laser. DMS is saying, give me Choi. He has World Series experience. Good point. And Darren is saying Ji-Man Choi as well. Like I said, I got nothing against DJ Stewart, and he's going to be in this organization, and he's going to be on the New York Mets. They obviously didn't tender him a $1.5 million contract for no reason this offseason. Like, they like DJ Stewart, but all I'm saying is that by virtue of who has options versus who doesn't, he could be the odd man out. He could be. I don't know. But anything is better than Daniel Vogelback. Anything would be better than Daniel Vogelback. Anything, man. Anything. Because Daniel Vogelback was a nightmare last season. And I quite frankly would like to get that name out of my memory. I don't want to hear anything about Daniel Vogelback again because I have nightmares in terms of going back and looking at his at-bats. And 2022, when he came over, he was decently solid, but 2023, man, it was a broken record. It was a broken record with Daniel Vogelback. So, but yeah, very impressive games. 2 dubs for the New York Mets, 6-3 and 7-1, respectively, over the Washington Nationals and the Miami Marlins. Alex Ramirez, listen, if you guys don't know and you're not on the Alex Ramirez bandwagon right now, I'm here to tell you all that you should be on the Alex Ramirez bandwagon. Let me go off on about Alex Ramirez real quick, because this is a guy that I dropped a pre-recorded podcast episode when I talked about Alex Ramirez and Kevin Parada in the same video about needing resurgent seasons. They struggled, and he struggled in 2023. He's a 21-year-old kid, 21 years old, and a lot of people are writing him off in this Mets organization. And I'm here to tell you, you should not, because he's got a couple of hits under his belt. We saw it today, opposite field, 2-bagger. He's got all the tools to be successful. He needs to get the bat figured out. And that's why I like what we've been seeing in his approach in terms of going the opposite way and taking the ball where it's pitched, because that's something that I feel like he could have done a lot better, especially maybe to mitigate a season like he had in high A ball last year. But listen, this is a guy that was at one point in the 2022 season when the Mets were winning ball games and looking to bolster their roster and going into the negotiation table with the Chicago Cubs for the services of David Robertson, Ian Happ, or Wilson Contreras at that point. This was a guy that a lot of teams were after as the main part of that package in return for whoever they were giving up at the deadline. Alex Ramirez. And by some stretch of the imagination, a lot of people want to drop him off, not even into their top 30s on their Mets prospect rankings, or just say that he has coachability issues and disrespecting him in that manner. Like, this dude was 20 years old last season when he struggled, and he's going into his age 21 season. Can we be real right now? He's not a Tyler Stewart or a Nate Lavender that's 24 years old, approaching 25 years old, and hasn't cracked the major leagues yet. We need to give this guy time, but it's going to be interesting to see where they put Alex Ramirez. Are they going to completely mitigate that high A ball sort of level and put him up to double A? Or are they going to put him back in high A ball in hopes that he figures it out very quickly and shows that production and also then promoting him to double A? That's what I'm curious about, because I love the sample size that we're seeing here very early into spring training regarding Alex Ramirez. I love it. I love it. And that's a guy that can play all three outfield positions, and he has a great arm. He's also could be a 5-tool player. I don't throw that term out loosely. I don't. But Alex Ramirez, since when he signed to the Mets in 2019, he was an international free agent, signed to the Mets for over a $2 million signing bonus in 2019. He was thought of as a 5-tool player. Him and Drew Gilbert are those types of talents. Make no mistake about it. So keep an eye out on Alex Ramirez. His name should not be forgotten. Absolutely not. All right, let's move on here because we did go ahead and talk about these two games just briefly. Like I said, I'm going to try to not come up here and talk about every single game and do a recap. This is only spring training. We'll reserve the daily post games and recaps for when the season hits, but I wanted to talk about these two games in general, and maybe we'll do one toward the tail end of next week as well when we get some more sample size from these guys in spring training. But let's talk about the competition for the back end of the starting rotation. You see 4 names here, 3 of which have already appeared in spring training for the New York Mets. We have only not seen Joey Lucchesi here so far in the early goings. There's going to be a competition for the back end of the rotation in lieu of this Kodai Senga injury. Regardless if the Mets go with a 5-man or a 6-man, it doesn't matter. There's 1, maybe even 2 spots available. But let's just say, for simplicity purposes, that there's only 1 spot available. You got 4 options to choose from here. And they're 4 legitimate options because you can see here they're getting off to great starts in spring training. Tylor Megill is that classic option, has benefited from injuries in the past, especially last year when Verlander went down, and he was the opening day starter when no one would have foreseen that coming with the rotation of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. No one would have saw that coming. But nonetheless, he's here and he's in the equation. You see Tylor Megill, we talked about it on the previous live stream. He did give up 1 earned run. The slider wasn't great in that outing for Tylor Megill. I believe it was against the Cardinals. Did hit a batter with that slider, couldn't locate it, but he did put away some hitters with the strikeouts and got 3 Ks on his 2 innings of work. So he threw. Jose Butto was impressive as well. 2 innings pitched, no earned runs, 3 hits, 1 strikeout, and no walks. And obviously, most recently yesterday with Max Kranick, also 2 innings of work. Now, this is going to be very interesting because obviously these are only a couple of innings that we're talking about here in the opening start for these guys. Like, we talk about ramping up to a respectable sample size in spring training. This is just the initial 2 innings, and they're not even probably throwing their full arsenal at this point. Like, they're probably not throwing their full arsenal. Don't want injuries early on. Don't want to overuse the off-speed pitches, and it's only 2 innings, and they know it's only going to be 2 innings. But the next start around, when these guys are getting lengthened a little bit and their pitch counts go up, maybe they're going 4 innings. Maybe they're going 5 or 6. Doesn't matter, whatever it is. It's going to be more than 2 innings, and that's where we are able to make better judgments on all of these guys. But keep an eye out on all 4 of these guys. We'll see if Joey Lucchesi makes an appearance in spring training. I'm not sure if he will. We'll see. But keep an eye out on definitely Tylor Megill, how he bounces back. I think he looked pretty decent. I want to see how his control is for the rest of his starts remaining in spring training. I want to see that control because with Tylor Megill, it's all about the inability to get out of innings efficiently. Like, Tylor Megill will have this magic where he walks the batter and lets runners get into scoring position, but he'll only give up 1 run and he'll have a solid, I guess, outing. But he can only go 4 to 5 innings before his pitch counts at 80 to 100 pitches already, and he's thinking about getting pulled. So I need to see more efficiency out of Tylor Megill. More efficiency, please. But right now, if I had to guess, I think that the most likely options here on your screen are Tyler McGill and Jose Butto and Joey Lucchesi. I like Max Kranick. I think he was a solid pickup, obviously, coming from that Pittsburgh Pirates organization. Max Kranick, if you haven't heard already, also grew up a Mets fan, said David Wright was his favorite player growing up. Great story. I just don't think he is going to be a realistic option for the starting rotation come opening day. Quite simple. But the rest of these guys, I want to know who you all would prioritize, because honestly, I think that if Tyler McGill comes around and proves that he can be efficient and finds that slider in the next start, he's well on his way, and he's already got a head start of being that opening day starter. For better or for worse, I'm not the biggest Tyler McGill guy. I think he also has some untapped potential still that he can display, but for the most part, we know that he's never going to translate into that ace or number 2 pitcher like we had originally hoped he would. We know that's not going to happen. He's a 5 at best, maybe even a 4 at best in a major league starting rotation. Jose Butto, another young guy that came onto the scene last season for the New York Mets, impressed, was very good. Can he be that guy for the New York Mets to open up this season? Very well could be. I like what Jose Butto has to offer. Or are they going to go the classic route with Joey Lucchesi? Now, there is room for 2 of these guys in this rotation. There's room for 2. We'll see how they choose to deploy it, because you can go straight up 6-man rotation, or you can have one of these guys start off in the bullpen and just be a spot starter every 6th day and add another bullpen guy. You're talking about 13 pitching roster spots available come 2024. That's all you're allowed to have on your roster at any given time is 13 pitchers in combining the rotation and the bullpen. So they can go 6 starters straight up and 7 bullpen guys, or they can go 5 starters and 8 bullpen guys. I think that latter option is going to be the case, and whatever the 6-man, whoever they choose for the 6-man is going to be coming out of the bullpen, and they'll be listed as a bullpen guy technically, and they'll just be spot starters every 6th day. So that's how I think it's going to shake out. But I did prop up a poll. And like I said, if you all are here, we're floating between 26 to 32 people in the chat watching this. If you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up for me. I do this for you all. I appreciate it. I love talking Mets baseball, and I want to hear y'all's opinions. And that's why I prop up these polls, whether it's on YouTube or my social media on X, wherever. That's why I do it. I want to hear what you all have to think, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. But I did prop up a poll a couple of days ago asking this very question as it pertains to this situation of this back end starter. And I asked on my X account to follow up my last tweet, because I clipped one of my previous live streams, and I said, here's an actual poll, Mets fans. Choose your opening day starter. Actually, this has nothing to do with the back end rotation. I apologize. This is something that we're going to get to in the next slide. I'm getting ahead of myself. But actually, I believe if I can find the poll, I did have a rotation poll up here that I propped up in the last live stream. I apologize. I was getting ahead of myself. Nope, this is not it. Nope, this is the same thing. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, these are our options here. I apologize. I did prop up a poll. I don't have the screenshot of it, and I'll prop that up next time anyways. But check out the last live stream. It was over there. But I guess I gave my hand away in terms of what the next topic's going to be. But anyways, do you see this? Let me know in the chat who you prioritizing. Do you think it's going to be Tyler McGill? Do you think it's going to be Jose Butto? Do you think it's going to be by some miracle of a reason? I'm not saying he's bad, but do you think it's going to be Max Kranick? Because guess what? Max Kranick it's a very long shot. It's a very long chance that he is that guy. And I don't want to give up on guys early. I'm not giving up on him because he's another guy that's going to be minor league depth if I had to guess. But I don't think that he's going to take the spot away from either McGill, Butto, and Lucchesi, because at the end of the day, a scenario that makes the most sense at this point is just to have Tyler McGill. You can have all 3 of these guys make the bullpen or make the rotation and the bullpen. Tyler McGill, Jose Butto, you can stick them into the rotation, and Joey Lucchesi can go to the bullpen as a long man. I mean, there's so many ways this team can play it, and we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But I want to get to some comments here. I got Tyler will be given the opportunity first. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Junior. Absolutely. That is something that I do think is going to be a realistic possibility, right? Tyler McGill has done this for 2 opening days in a row. He has benefited from injuries in the past. Let's face it, he's been working on a new pitch. If he can get his control, under wraps, then he is the best choice at this point, in my opinion, because he doesn't even need to go 6 or 7 innings. Like, that's what the beauty of this roster and the way it's shaking out right now. That's the beauty of it. The depth in the bullpen makes it so where none of these starters realistically have to go 6 innings. It would be great if they do, and I'm rooting for them to do that in order to save the longevity of this bullpen. But because this bullpen is so deep, you don't need 6 innings every single time out from these starters. Just saying. I think Tyler McGill will be given that first opportunity as well. I think if I had to rank them, Tyler McGill, Jose Butto, Joey Lucchesi, and Max Kranick in that order. That's what I think it's going to be. Shout out John G in the chat. John, I appreciate you and thank you for the super chat. Thank you for tuning into the stream and supporting the True Mets Talk podcast. Who will pitch the most innings? Chat, please feel free to answer this as well. Answer John's question. Who would pitch the most innings? Who will pitch the most innings in 2024? Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I know my answer, too. I know my answer. Who are you guys going with? Who are you guys going with? Because honestly, at face value with this question, John, I have my head. I have a thought with my head, an answer with my head, and an answer with my heart. I have 2 answers for you. My most logical answer for you, John, is Adrian Houser because he is Mr. Consistent. That's my initial answer to you. I know he's going to be out there. He's going to be out there every 5th day, every 4th day, wherever he starts off with. Doesn't matter. He's Mr. Consistent. He's not going to be, doesn't really have much injury concern to go along with him. That would be my answer with my head. The answer with my heart, and this is a guy that I've been talking about so much on my channel, is Luis Severino. And this is a perfect transition to my next topic anyways, we'll talk about that in just a second, but it's like the angel and the devil on both of your shoulders and telling you, no, it's Adrian Houser. No, it's Luis Severino. No, it's Adrian Houser. Listen, I would love if Luis Severino headlines this rotation in terms of having the most innings pitched. I don't think it's going to be Kodai Senga, especially in lieu of this injury. I don't think it's going to be Kodai Senga, unfortunately. We'll see even when we get him back. I want it to be Luis Severino. I think that he can get back. That maybe this might just be the homer in me, but knowing what he has to go off of in his arsenal and hearing the buzz that I've been hearing so far in spring training with his live batting practice, I like what I've been hearing out of Luis Severino. He looks like he's put on some muscle. I've been seeing his offseason workouts. He's getting more flexibility with those dynamic aerobic exercises, whatever you want to call it, those fast twitch muscles. I like that from Luis Severino. I think that's going to help his injury concern, and I'm expecting him to go 200-plus innings, and I'm expecting his ERA to be in the 3s. That's a bold prediction, but I think it's going to be Luis Severino. Like I said, one answer with my head, one answer with my heart, but I hope that answers your question. I appreciate you supporting the channel with the super chat as well. It means a lot. Thank you, John G. Yeah, guys. So let me know what you think and answer John's question as well. Is it going to be Luis Severino? Is it going to be Adrian Houser? Is it going to be even Jose Quintana? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That's a great question. That's a great question because the question of innings being spread out and getting enough innings from these starters is going to be something that we have to look out for in this season as well. The injury concerns. Jose Quintana is getting up there in age. Like, this is something that we have to monitor, especially in lieu of this Kodai Senga injury. Because the Mets are going to have to be very careful, especially to opening up the season, in terms of not overworking these starting pitchers. It's going to be a very big struggle to open up the year and see how they go about every sixth day. And we'll see how these guys hold up over 162. That's always the concern. And John is saying that he agrees with Houser as the heart answer of my choice. Yeah, like I said, it's like that answer with my head and answer with my heart. Like I like Adrian Houser, and I know with my head that he is Mr. Consistent, and I know he's going to be out there over the course of 162 for the Mets. But I have to go with the X factor in this rotation being Luis Severino, and I want him to be the answer because he is the X factor in the rotation for me. Yeah, he is the X factor in the rotation for me. Carlos, I believe, in relation to your question, John, is saying Jose Quintana. Sanders is saying he thinks he or she thinks it's going to be Sean Manaea. Junior Swingman is thinking Sean Manaea. Wow, everybody's thinking Sean Manaea here. What's going on? Do I not know something you all know? I'm very high on Sean Manaea as well. I think it's been a very underrated signing, bringing him in on the 2-year deal with an opt-out after 1 year. I do think that, but I'm not sure if I'm confident in Sean Manaea being that guy to go over 200 plus innings and being the head of that rotation in terms of the innings pitch category, as John G was asking before. But I would love it. I would love it. Perfect world scenario that usually never happens is all these guys pitch to their maximum potential and don't face a single injury this season. But that's not likely to happen. And we've already seen it with Kodai Senga. It's just an unrealistic scenario. And that's why I have my two answers as is. Houser gets a lot of ground balls. That's something that I did mention at the top of the stream. He gets a lot of ground balls, which means more innings pitch or more innings and less pitches. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. That's my sports 9.99 super chat. I definitely appreciate you. Keep killing it with your channel. Don't forget about Blue Shirts banner. Aaron, thank you so much. If guys, anybody in this chat, if you're looking for great sports content, make sure you go over to That's My Sports YouTube channel. They just passed 100 subscribers on their channel. Make sure you go hit the subscribe on their channel for me. I would thoroughly appreciate it. They do some great content. Thank you for the super chat. It means a lot. Brennan is asking, when do you think Gilbert's going to be called up? So I said that Luis Angel Acuna is most likely going to be a September call-up. But I think Drew Gilbert actually might be one of those mid-year call-ups. Maybe a little bit before the trade deadline, if not right after the trade deadline. And I know the trade deadline now is August 1st, which I guess is not really even mid-year anymore. But nonetheless, you know where I'm going at. I think maybe June, July time is really a great time that we can see Drew Gilbert in AAA or in the majors, because he's going to start off in AAA. We already know that. We already know he's going to start off in AAA. He hit 325 in AA since coming over in the tail half of last season. Since coming over to the Mets organization. So he's not going to Double-A. If he comes out of the gates swinging in Triple-A, literally and figuratively, you know what I mean? If he has a hot bat and if he just performs well all around, I think that we can really see him get called up sooner rather than later. And I wouldn't discount a scenario of the Mets pulling the plug on Harrison Bader maybe a little early if he doesn't figure it out with his bat. Now, we all know the great defense that Harrison Bader provides, but the Mets gave him $10 million this offseason. Harrison Bader, I'm talking about, for a reason. $10 million is not just for your defense. I'm sorry. But you could play the best outfield in the world, and $10 million still wouldn't justify you getting paid that much just for strictly defense. You need to have something with your bat. And Harrison Bader, we all know, has struggled with his bat. I like Harrison Bader in the 9-hole. If he struggles with his bat, obviously he's going to be the starting center fielder. We know that. Nimmo's moving to left field. If he struggles consistently with his bat over the first couple of months, I truly don't think that you're taking a major drop-off of defense with Drew Gilbert, because I am that high on Drew Gilbert, not only offensively but defensively. I think Drew Gilbert could get that shot in center field sooner than people think. So that's my answer on Drew Gilbert. Good question, Brennan. Good question. I can see him being a Conforto type call-up. Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys remember, this is something that I've been asking a lot of you all and a lot of the other Mets content creators that I go on these lives and pre-record episodes with about this sort of approach from David Stearns, this newfound approach. Michael Conforto, I believe, was one of the last prospects in the Mets organization to get called up from Double A directly. We haven't seen it much, if at all, since Michael Conforto. Do the Mets take that approach? I was thinking that they might, but David Stearns, in a sit-down interview in one of those spring training games a couple days ago, told Gary that they're not going to rush prospects. They're not going to rush prospects. But I don't think you'd be rushing Drew Gilbert because I think he's the most ready of all prospects. And yes, that does include Jet Williams. I think Drew Gilbert is more ready than Jet Williams. So that's that. Moving on here into one of the last topics on this live stream. We're going to breeze by this here. We're going to talk about y'all's opinions on the opening day starter in lieu of the Kodai Senga injury. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about Brett Beatty before we get up on out of here, because I know Talking Mets with Rob has a live stream starting up here in just a second as well. I want to be courteous to him and not intrude on his time as well. Who do you all have as your opening day New York Mets starter in 2024 in lieu of the Kodai Senga injury? There's two options, maybe even three if you throw in Tyler McGill. Jose Quintana versus Luis Severino. And this is one of the topics that on the last live stream on this channel, Talking Mets with Rob, he took the stance of Jose Quintana, and I was lobbying for my guy, Luis Severino. I'm going with Luis Severino as my opening day starter. Jose Quintana, probably, if they were betting odds on it, is the safer option to bet on of being that opening day starter. He performed very well down the stretch of last season. Tyler McGill, obviously, him doing it the last couple of seasons obviously makes him a candidate for that as well, like Junior is saying here in this comment. A lot of Tyler McGill answers to these questions. Do you see a common theme of why his roster spot is inevitable? I do. But I threw up a poll. This is where I'm going to get into my poll. And like I said, if you don't follow me on all my social media handles, it is at CPNY Sports. I'm going to toss up more of these polls as the season goes along. I want you all to answer the polls, and they will make its way up to the live streams and pre-recorded podcast episodes. This is one of my ways that I want to engage with you all as viewers. I asked my ex-followers and Mets fans specifically, choose your opening day starter versus the Brewers next month. And you can see here the majority of the voters went with Jose Quintana. 52.3% of the 65 votes. Luis Severino. Well, I had one jokester in my comments saying Jordan Montgomery. Guys, please, if you're still on this Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery wave, I'm not going to get into the whole spiel of it. It's not likely. It's not going to happen. David Stearns has basically already said it. Just let go of that pipe dream. Please, I'm asking you all as a logical take here and a logical Mets fans, please. But you can see here the overwhelming majority of people said Jose Quintana. Now, like I said, that's probably the safest bet. But I do think that if you want to instill that confidence early and often in Luis Severino, and you want to just make that statement that you believe in Luis Severino in terms of bringing him in and having that bounce back year. This is his free agent year, by the way. He's only on a 1-year deal, so the Mets are going to have to either extend him or he's walking back into free agency. Started off early with a bang. Luis Severino against the Brewers. Can you imagine the vibes of the Mets fan base? If Luis Severino goes out there and throws a gem in his first outing as a New York Met in this potentially resurgent 2024 campaign, I want it so bad. That would be a lot more electric to me than Jose Quintana going out there and doing what we know that he can do. Save Jose Quintana for that second day. Give us Luis Severino early and often. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? That's how I'm approaching it. That's how I'm approaching it. Carlos, no worries. I'm also going to be throwing up polls on the community tab of my YouTube channel. As always, if you're subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that notifications button to not miss out on any of my live streams, pre-recorded episodes, or any polls or posts that I put in there in the community tab. I'll do that as well for those of y'all who do not have X or other social media. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, so Junior's saying McGill for the opening day starter. And he's saying that hope it's Sevy, though. Hope it's Sevy. Yeah, I'm saying I hope it's Sevy, too. I hope it's Sevy. When it comes to the experience, Darren says Quintana. When it comes to the fact that Sevy is a 1 or 2 starter, especially in his past in 2018, 2017 with the Yanks, those all-star seasons, go with Sevy. I agree. Let's start this season off with a bang. All right, guys, it's 7:31, about an hour and 15 into the stream. Like I said, I ran through it earlier, a little bit of a self-promo. Do have 2 membership options now up and running. Today's the first day, went live. Make sure you go check that out. Join the membership for your perks. In this live stream and all my lives and future lives, you will get special emojis, the Francisco Lindor, the Pete Alonso emojis. And if you're a Knicks fan and tune into my Knicks post games, you will get that Knicks tape emoji as well. Thank you for the support and the We Bleed Orange and Blue membership here as well. You will get your free long sleeve CP New York Sports t-shirt with the We Bleed Orange and Blue on the back. It's stylish. You'll get it. And I'm excited to have this as a option on this channel now. And that's thanks to you all, giving you all back some things on the channel with all the support that you all have provided me. I thoroughly appreciate it. So make sure you go check that out. A little bit of promo there. And like I said, I appreciate it. This has been so much fun. This is only just a small sample size of what's to come. A lot of you all new subscribers are just rocking with me for the first time this off season. Maybe you witnessed some of my off season content, but I did do a lot of Mets content last season. I did post-game lives. I talked about series recaps, and I will continue to do that this season. Continue to rock with me. Channel's almost at 550 subscribers. I thoroughly appreciate the support as we surge on to 600 subscribers on the channel. Thank you all so much for rocking with me. It is February 27th. It's been another live stream edition. This is my first solo live stream. Let me know in the comment section. Did I do a good job? This is my first solo live stream on the True Mets Talk podcast. I'm going to be doing a lot more if I can't get any of my fellow Mets content creators, Nelson from Amish Country Mets fan, or Talking Mets with Rob on my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more solo content. I hope that you all were engaged in this conversation. I hope I kept you all engaged, and I hope that you all got a little bit more insight in terms of what my thoughts and opinions are of this New York Mets organization 4 games into spring training. We didn't really get into Brett Baty, did we? We didn't get into Brett Baty. The one thing that I'm going to say about Brett Baty here is that one thing to monitor about Brett Baty is his ground ball rate. Struggled with that in 2023 across the board, and we've been seeing here for the early start of this spring training, his at-bats, he's been pounding the ball into the ground. I want to see him get a little bit more lift up on the ball, but like I said, I am going to get out of here. I'm going to go over to Talking Mets with Rob, support his stream as well, his live stream. He's going to go live, and we're going to talk about Brett Baty on a subsequent live stream. That's a whole different topic, and I'm not going to sort of go through the spark notes here. I want to get into an in-depth analysis on Brett Baty. Thank you all so much for rocking with me. It's been another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast, Mets Spring Training Live Edition. It's your boy CP. I appreciate it. I'm out of here. As always, let's go Mets.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.